On the day I dropped by the set to check on Carrie, she blatantly skipped work to have a rendezvous with a hot young actor at a hotel. Everyone on set was carefully watching my reaction when I got handed the intimate photos. But I didn't really care. Instead, I was drawn to a young girl in the corner who looked somewhat like Carrie. It was lunchtime on set, and the lunch lady gave the girl an extra scoop of meat. She smiled brightly with her eyes, a genuine smile. I wondered to myself, who is she? Mark likes good-looking people and tends to be more lenient toward pretty faces. Sometimes he even gives opportunities and resources to those he likes. But ever since Carrie came into my life, that has happened less. Everyone knows about our past. It's never been a secret. The director quickly replied with a gleam in his eye. She's Carrie's stand-in, named Rachel. I nodded slightly. With Carrie not here, let's shoot other scenes first. How's her work performance? The script supervisor next to me pulled over a laptop and showed me some of Rachel's audition clips. Her movements were swift, brimming with energy and spirit, artistry that pleases the eye. I glanced at my assistant, Frank. He's been by my side for years, knowing my preferences well. Without needing much from me, he whispered a few things to the assistant director. The set's tension suddenly dissipated, returning to its usual lively and bustling state, as if the disruption caused by Carrie's random strike never happened. Rachel was sent out to perform. From a not-too-close distance, the striking girl seemed a bit surprised, meeting my eyes squarely. Those were dark eyes as bright as stars. She smiled, beautiful enough to make your heart skip a beat. Rachel was brought to S Entertainment by Frank, housed in one of the tallest buildings in the city. It's 100 stories high, with the entire top floor serving as my office space. They rode the elevator up as I was wrapping up a video meeting, staring out at the cityscape, lost in thought. The weather was beautiful today, not a cloud in the sky. On my desk lay a few sheets of paper. It was Rachel's background. It took less than 30 minutes from showing interest in her until everything about her was in my hands. Rachel grew up in a welfare home, once had decent grades, but for some reason, dropped out of school to become an extra. She has some martial arts skills and gradually became a go-to stunt double for some directors in the film city. I watched some of her audition reels and found that even though Rachel wasn't classically trained, she had a certain flair. Her every gesture was naturally photogenic. But there are so many people in this industry. Having talent doesn't guarantee success. For instance, Rachel's most notable achievement so far has been becoming Carrie's exclusive double after years of playing small roles unnoticed. Honestly, she's quite stunning in person, much more than in photos. Though she resembles Carrie slightly, their aura is very different. No one would mistake them in real life. I assessed her investment value, landing at S+. The last person I rated that highly was Carrie. I backed Carrie for 3 years, transforming her from an unknown newbie into a sought-after star, pouring countless resources into her. Carrie possesses an unforgettable face. Her beauty is striking and bold. Her lips are thin, features sharp, a cold aloofness in her eyes, exuding arrogance, making her seem destined to stand atop. Within the circle, everyone says I'm head over heels for Carrie. After all, as the head honcho, I keep my distance from women, have no scandals. Carrie's an exception. So she thought as much. I never denied it. Whether I loved her or not didn't matter. As long as her demands didn't cross my line, I accommodated her. Many in power have unspeakable quirks. My parents always said the higher you stand, the freer you are, with endless ways to relieve stress. I just prefer beautiful people. It's human nature to love beauty, and I'm forthright about it. Carrie's looks are exactly my type. I was instantly captivated the first time I saw her. I'm busy, with most of my time spent at work, leaving little room for relationships, definitely not enough for multiple people. That's why it's only been Carrie around me all this time, partly to avoid hassle, partly due to a need for neatness. Carrie's personality isn't exactly gentle or considerate. She throws tantrums sometimes, but that's fine. For a face I like, I offer more tolerance and favoritism. But I'm also a businessman, aware that I'm not running a charity. I've always had high hopes for Carrie, and she didn't let me down. bringing the company returns far beyond the investment. Now, however, I'm just disappointed. Disappointed that her once shining, dreamy eyes when she talked about her ideals, now indulged in an ostentatious life, blatantly disregarding her work, causing entire set operations to halt due to her irresponsibility. Crossed my line, and I don't give second chances. Put it down. The extra PR costs are deducted from her pay. Also, isn't Carrie's contract expiring soon? On set, when Frank asked how to handle this, I issued a brief command to gradually retract her commercial endorsements and set resources. Entertainment doesn't keep idlers. If she lacks the business acumen, someone else should take her place. When Rachel knocked and entered, as she approached, I noticed a light mole under one of her eyes. Her features were softer, lips not as thin, lacking Carrie's harsh coldness, but more elegant and calm. She's also a bit taller than Carrie, probably due to her martial arts background. Her posture was straight, her attire simple, yet her presence stood out, like a fallen prince. But her brows and eyes often carried a smile, instantly making her seem open-hearted. Seeing me, Rachel paused briefly, almost unnoticeably, yet her eyes lit up as if encountering something truly delightful. Her feelings were infectious. Rachel greeted me, "Mark, good afternoon." I didn't explain why I chose her or why we were meeting so abruptly. I was straightforward, handing her a document. "I know you haven't officially signed with any company. Here's a contract. At Entertainment, internal artist ratings apply, and this was a B-class contract." Rachel, an unknown extra, would find this quite generous. But she didn't even glance at it, instead eyeing another black folder by my hand. "Is that the second choice?" She smiled at me. "Can I pick that one?" She's smart and bold. I gave a non-direct answer. "Do you know what's between Carrie and me?" She pondered for a few seconds, choosing her words carefully. "She's yours. Everyone knows I'm Carrie's sugar daddy." Rachel didn't wait for me to speak and went on. "If I sign that document, can I become yours?" I was taken aback by her bluntness, looking at her with some confusion. Rachel had incredibly clear, dark eyes that reminded me of an unpolluted sky. Despite the misleading words, her tone was devoid of any flirtation. I paused for a few seconds, softening my tone a bit. "Rachel, I don't like to force people. I'm generous with opportunities for good-looking people, but that doesn't mean I want anything from them." Rachel's smile at that moment touched me. "So this is simply a generous gift. No cost attached." Entertainment has stood strong for years, partly because each leader practices self-reflection. Remembering mistakes that veered off course and finding ways to improve keeps us clear-headed. With Carrie, I took a moment to reflect, wondering if I was at fault. Like letting Carrie think I'd blacklist her if our relationship ended, which is probably why she sneaked around with others like a mouse. But honestly, I'm not into the whole taking by force thing. As the president of Entertainment, plenty of people try to win my favor, including offering themselves up. But I'm busy. I don't have the energy or time for chasing after women, even if Carrie is a great partner and we had good times together. I've seen many sides of Carrie over time. Sweet, playful, angry, sad, joyous. One time, she traveled far and wide to surprise me with fireworks in the snow just to make me happy. She's been my +1 at countless events and was the only one I'd allow that close. She's whispered my name and called me brother in our most intimate moments. But then, there's this picture today, a candid shot of her passionately kissing a boy whose face isn't visible, fully wrapped up in him. A side I've never seen. Carrie used to blush if she lied to me, easy to spot. Now, years later, she can lie without blinking. Today, Carrie told me she was sick. Actually, she was with someone else. Entertainment has a long reach, and I know everything. These distasteful photos reached me instantly. I quietly tucked away the pictures, cleaned up her mess, and kept it quiet. Not for her, but because she's an artist under our company, and scandals can harm our reputation. I know she developed real feelings with her previous co-star, Tim. I noticed her occasional distraction. People change. I didn't react much, just decided to treat her like any employee moving forward. She wanted to be with me, so I went with it, not minding if it ended. I just didn't expect her and Tim to be at this point. My visit to set was spontaneous, a decision after settling in post-travel. Not seeing her and finding out about all this was a bit shocking and disappointing, but that's it. Breaking the contract should have consequences. I never insist. If she doesn't want it, someone else can. Rachel looked at me for a few seconds without speaking. Her warm dark eyes carried an indecipherable emotion, like the sunlit surface of a lake. She had enchanting eyes, intensely focused when she looked at someone, the kind of look my employees say even a dog would find moving. She's quite beautiful. I paused briefly and added an explanation, something unusual for me. If you sign this contract, you'll do well at S Entertainment too. She suddenly laughed, not mockingly, but genuinely happy. Mark, becoming yours means you're the one at a loss. Even when spouting flattery, someone so gorgeous can make it feel like a breeze, especially with her sincere, trusting look. After all, Mark is the legendary crown of S Entertainment, a business icon. She's better at making people happy than Carrie, maybe even more my type. I fell silent for a few seconds and slid the black folder towards her. It's an S+ level contract equivalent to what Carrie had. What you give is what you get. Of course, after past experiences, I included more terms. Rachel glanced at the contract, then swiftly signed the last page without a second thought. I advised her you could have a lawyer review it. She was straightforward, smiling up at me. Mark wouldn't deceive me. Something like a feather tickled my heart. I admit she had won me over again. By the time work wrapped up, the moon hung high. I took Rachel to a villa I recently bought. It's a quiet area with great privacy. This place was purchased last year. Carrie's never been here, so Rachel had to wear the men's slippers prepared in advance. I let her register her fingerprint. No one's been here before, so you won't find much for yourself. Tell the housekeeper whatever you lack, and she'll sort it. She nodded seriously, looking oddly pleased. I asked, what's up? So this is only yours, and only you and I will come here, right? She knelt down to help me change shoes. Looking up, her jawline and throat elegantly defined. Then down to her unbuttoned white shirt. The view from below is so restrained, yet from above it's too open, easily distracting. I didn't catch what she said, just followed my heart, tugging gently on her collar. No more formalities. She smiled, her eyes soft and mysterious, as if a little creature. Okay, Rachel's a perfect fit for this lifestyle. When her fingertips gently brushed through my damp hair, I kind of zoned out. The room was quiet except for the hum of the hairdryer. The gentle breeze was warm and comfy. Her massaging was just right, making me drowsy. Rachel knelt beside me. For the first time since we met, I saw an uneasy look on her face. I've got no experience, she said, blushing around her ears. I was about to say it's fine. Honestly, when I was with Carrie, I didn't really ask for stuff like this. Just seeing her face was enough. Unlike with Carrie, I wasn't into such intimate exchanges. It wasn't all that great for me. But then, Rachel lifted my robe and gently raised my leg. But I want to try something else first, she said. Her lips touched my leg, warm and soft. Is this okay? I didn't say no, just went along with it. The room's temperature seemed to rise. It felt like I was sinking into a petal-filled hot spring. When I kissed Rachel earlier, she was awkward and unsure. She even seemed afraid to bump her teeth into mine, just staying frozen. Rachel's health report checked out clean. Frank had gone through it. She's healthy, no serious illnesses, just some martial arts injuries. The report also said she never dated, rarely had male friends. I was curious if it was her first kiss. She admitted it was, promising me she learned quickly. Experiencing her lips and tongue in another way, I realized how fast she learned. The progress was amazing. At one point, I bit my lip to hold back, trying to pull my leg away, but she held my ankle. Don't hide, okay? Her mumbled voice sounded distant, more of a plea than an order. I found myself unable to say no. My fingers brushed her soft bangs. Then suddenly, I tightened my grip. Carrie never did anything like this with me. It was new, overwhelming, like being swept by a wave. I didn't even notice my phone buzzing beside me. Incoming call, Carrie. Carrie called 6 times before I answered. "What's up?" I asked. "What are you doing? Why didn't you pick up?" Carrie, oblivious to being cheated on, clearly didn't know. Makes sense. She was too caught up in her own romance to notice anything else. Her agent was sick, assistant nervously told me instead. Her tone was a bit annoyed but quickly got to her point. "Mark, wasn't the lead role in Alex's new show set for me? Why haven't I gotten a casting call?" Lover Under Moonlight is a lead female role but not the main lead. It's aimed at winning awards, which Rachel needs for Best Newcomer. I assigned Lillian, our top agent, to Rachel. She's just back from maternity leave. Lillian laid out Rachel's career plan for the year, including this show. Carrie really wanted this role, trying to shift from her usual romantic dramas. But since it fits Rachel, I set her up for the audition. Rachel must have overheard. Still, she was obedient. She didn't stop since I stayed silent. "I gave it to someone else," I said nonchalantly. "Carrie, are you questioning me?" She was silent for a few seconds, probably sensing something off. Her voice softened. "I prepped for a long time. I'm sorry I lost my cool. Don't be mad. Okay?" Honestly, I couldn't hear a word Carrie said. The one beneath me was softly swallowing, making my grip tighten, and I let out a small moan. Carrie stopped talking, and the call went awkwardly silent. After several seconds, she finally asked, "What are you doing?" But I couldn't stay calm or respond normally. The call ended. No idea when it slipped between the couch cushions. The world spun, pictures scattering and piecing together. Rachel's nose touched mine, her gaze so intense it embarrassed me. My voice softened without thinking. "What? Don't look," she said. So she closed her eyes, lashes brushing down. But she wasn't really listening. "I noticed you can see in more ways than just with your eyes. I'm usually a light sleeper, but this time I slept deeply, feeling surprisingly refreshed. When I got to the office, Frank briefed me. "Carrie's been waiting for you." I was surprised and frowned. She had plans today. Frank hesitated, choosing his words carefully, looking a bit perplexed. "Linda's hospitalized. Carrie asked about your place but couldn't find it. She scoured your home. Coco said she couldn't stop her. Don't tell Linda. Let her recover," I said blandly. "Bring Carrie to the conference room." Carrie clearly didn't sleep. She usually keeps up appearances, but today she hadn't washed, eyes bloodshot, looking worn out. Her messy outfit didn't help. I looked at her a couple of seconds, thinking she doesn't look as good as Rachel last night. I've always had patience only with those I find attractive. Seeing me, Carrie's eyes lit up, but then she pressed her lips, holding back a surge of fury. She gritted her teeth, attacking first. "Mark, where were you last night? What were you doing? Why did you ignore my calls?" I ignored her, tossing yesterday's paparazzi photos on the table. Her voice halted. She stared at the explicit affair photos, her face drained white. Then she looked up quickly, her tone softened, desperate. "Mark, it's not like that. Yesterday, the PR department is dealing with Queen Entertainment." I cut her off. "They're planning for you and Tim to keep the couple facade, then announce your relationship. Carrie is a top-tier actress these days, while Tim is a rising male star. There's a huge gap between their statuses in the industry. In the photo, the boy's face is blurry, but Carrie's is crystal clear. As the leading actors in Sweetheart, Tim and Carrie have to sell their on-screen chemistry as part of their work. But while I was abroad, their couple hype got a bit out of hand. Frank looked into it and found that a lot of the hype was generated by fake accounts from Queen Entertainment. That's Tim's company. I can't believe these photos weren't orchestrated by Queen Entertainment. They were quiet yesterday, probably watching to see how I'd react. Everyone knows Carrie is my go-to star, so this kind of move is clearly a provocation. But here we are. I didn't get mad, and Entertainment just quietly suppressed the photos. Queen Entertainment must be feeling pretty pleased, thinking they'll corner me into a deal. But I'm not biting. I can't stand being manipulated. I've made one top star, I can make another. No one is irreplaceable. The AC whirred softly in the office, but the person in front of me was sweating bullets. Carrie stiffly kneeled, looking up at me. "Mark, I was really sick yesterday. I was all dizzy. I didn't even remember Tim came by until later. We didn't do anything. I quickly pushed him away because I didn't want you to be upset, and I didn't know how to tell you, you got played. But those words fell on deaf ears. I just stated it plainly. Carrie, you got caught in a trap. With just that one line, all her frantic explanations came to a stop. She looked at me, like she was afraid she'd missed the slightest change in my expression. She shook a little as she asked, "Is that all you've got to say to me?" I frowned and asked back, "What else do you want me to say?" Carrie's teeth were chattering. "You knew yesterday, but you didn't react at all? We've been together 3 years, and you didn't ask me why even once?" But the moment she started getting cozy with Tim, it was over between us. I didn't need to know the story behind it because from then on, she was nothing to me. Carrie should have known before now that every choice has its consequences. Explanations after the fact are just empty words. I was puzzled, so I just asked, "How did you expect me to react? Fall apart? Get jealous? Get angry and confront you? You never cared about me, and you still don't." It was like I'd hit a nerve. She clamped her teeth and stood up, eyes turning red, her voice rising. "Mark, you treated me like a pet, like an object. Did you ever see us as equals? Do you even have feelings?" I paused with my coffee spoon. Carrie's emotions were raw and honest. She probably always felt this way. I suddenly felt a bit foggy, trying to recall when she first came to me, looking up with that smile. Back then, her interest seemed calculated, her ambition obvious. I could see her determination to climb higher, and I kind of admired it. Preparation pays off, and Carrie wasn't all pretense. So was I angry or sad when I found out? Sure, a little. 3 years together, I'm not a robot. Saying I had no feelings for her would be a lie. But in my life, liking someone is just a small part. I'm good at shedding negative emotions and moving on. More than being jealous over a cheating girlfriend, I just felt insulted by her audacity. So I accepted her accusation, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "Carrie, you're overestimating yourself. We were never equals, not in social standing or in our relationship. It's been like this since day one." Carrie got it, and the flicker in her eyes broke, disbelief washing over her. Her fist clenched and unclenched, and she let out a bitter laugh. But I had no patience left for her melodrama. I gathered myself, my tone ice cold. "Did you really think I wouldn't let you go? That I'd try everything to hold on to you?" Carrie looked blank for a moment. "Called it, didn't I?" She took my tolerance for granted, my generosity as her safety net. I finally found it funny. Just because I'm not starting fights doesn't mean you'll walk away clean. Carrie, I'm not running a charity here. Taking back all her privileges and resources at S Entertainment, Carrie will probably go look for another opportunity soon. The best option right now is Queen Entertainment, who's eagerly waiting. Everyone knows I used to back Carrie. Doing this is a pretty open challenge. Mom taught me if someone wrongs you, retaliate 100-fold. Otherwise, they'll think you're a pushover. Now that Queen Entertainment is stepping on my toes. Dad taught me that when in a position of power, sometimes it's wise to be lenient, as leaders need to win people's hearts. So I'm not keen on outright ruining Carrie. The shareholders at South Entertainment are all close associates or trusted elders I put in place, making it essentially my fiefdom. Queen Entertainment's chairman Larry, he can't hold it together. There are still factions fighting for power within. Once security and her assistant escorted a dazed Carrie away, I looked down, tapping a small metal spoon against my coffee cup, my face expressionless in the dark brew's reflection. After a moment, I let a soft smile brush my lips. Lusting after what isn't yours should come with a cost. Larry, if you can't manage Queen Entertainment, I won't hesitate to change the game. Everyone at S Entertainment knows Carrie's out of favor. Raising a star might be tough, but shelving someone is simple. Carrie's perks dropped like a rock. Her gigs became scarce, and she couldn't even step into my office. On the flip side, there was Rachel. When Lillian, the company's top agent, came back, she only had eyes for one newcomer. The staff weren't clueless either. One look at Rachel and they got the picture. But Carrie, who never crossed paths with Rachel, was out of the loop. No one clued her in 'cause it would have just been awkward. What surprised me was how Carrie didn't jump ship to Queen Entertainment. They offered a solid deal, a tight contract, even covering a hefty penalty fee. They were eager to sign her. So why stick around at S Entertainment where she's getting the cold shoulder? Playing the waiting game or got some other agenda? I find out soon. Because on the casting day for Lover Under Moonlight, Carrie showed up uninvited. Technically an audition, but I had already pushed Rachel for the role. She just needed not to mess it up, and she was good to go. Rachel auditioned with an action scene. Her eyes sparkled like stars. Her eyebrows arced elegantly like spring hills. Her movements were smooth and graceful. Her breath steady even as she landed. As the biggest investor behind Alex, S Entertainment, and I naturally kept good ties. Her eyes lit up, and in high spirits, she even jokingly remarked, "With talent like this, why did Mark bother showing up? Just a phone call and I would have been relieved," reminding me of how I rarely visited sets, let alone auditions. Work was always swamped and time scarce. Reflecting on why I came today, I guess it was 'cause I wasn't quite settled. Plus Rachel had asked if I'd watch her show. Carrie often threw requests my way, angling for roles or resources. Ambitions fine, I played along. But Rachel? Never asked for much, only trivial stuff like if I'd tune into her drama or when I'd have time to check my phone. She'd routinely check in with me no matter where she was. Gushed about the awesome set meals, fun classroom moments, or just a simple hey. She kept it simple, nothing sappy. She barely said I miss you. A little tease got her blushing, which always made me wonder how she was so chill when she first offered herself to me. Rachel's social media was squeaky clean. When not working, her schedule was scary disciplined. She had no bad habits and little materialism, kinda like the hamster I once kept. She was nothing like Carrie. Hence, I treated them differently. Lost in thought, I saw Rachel, having changed after her scene, sidle up to me. The director's crew wisely backed off. She seemed about to speak but merely smiled at me instead. She was glowing, even in a short span, more radiant than before. Like some precious stone I had polished, gleaming with elegance and nobility. Beautiful. Her expressions pure, unforced emotion. My breath caught as I gently brushed the faint mole under her eye. "Mark." A familiar, frosty voice broke the atmosphere. Carrie stood behind me, eyes bloodshot, wearing a baseball cap, staring daggers at Rachel. Her emotions whirled. Shock, hesitation, bewilderment, realization, anger, jealousy, fear, all morphing into deep hatred and disgust. "It's you? I remember you, the little stand-in, right?" Carrie sneered. "What? Filling in for me in bed too?" Her face twisted, her tone off the rails. I frowned, glanced at her empty side, guessed she snuck in, and prepared to call someone to escort her out. I had long lost interest in conversing with her, especially during her tirades. "Carrie, your language is vile. Mark's personal stuff is none of your business now," Rachel said calmly. "Plus, if you've got your own issues to deal with, don't blame others for taking their chances." "Mark? Look at you climbing the ladder," Carrie mocked. "Who are you to talk to me like that? Has Mark been busy bringing you along? But a fill-in like you, who knows what diseases you might have caught sleeping around." I threw a folder, leaving a gash on her forehead. "Carrie, can't speak. Can you?" I said mildly. "Or has a few years of being pampered made you think you're someone important?" I typically avoided violence, verbal or physical. Today was an exception. Carrie looked at me, stunned. "I've already called someone to fetch you back." "Stop embarrassing yourself," I told her. Her face went pale. She started shaking. Her voice laced with disbelief and despair. "Mark, did S Entertainment give all my roles to her? Are you really leaving me behind because of her? You're done with me?" Carrie only had a high school diploma. Even before, our conversations weren't always on the same wavelength. At that moment, I weirdly understood why she hadn't left S Entertainment. She wanted to save whatever was left between us. Isn't that just ridiculous? My patience was gone. "This has nothing to do with Rachel. I kicked you out because you bailed on work, cheated with another man, got caught, damaged the company's image. You didn't deserve what you had." She straightened, chest heaving, eyes blazing, incoherent. Mark, I got famous without you. I'll tell you this, Entertainment needs me, not the other way around. I'll be just fine leaving. You'll see. Her words hung in silence. The security had arrived. I couldn't be bothered to cast another glance at her. Get out. Not until returning to the villa did I notice Rachel was particularly quiet today, but her touch was gentle while drying my hair. I looked up at her. Upset? I defended her, but Carrie's words were so harsh. It's understandable if she's hurt. Her fingers paused, her eyes a soft amber under the light, clear as water. No, Rachel said quietly, just feel it's not worth it. She fell silent. I understood Carrie's nothing to do with me now. Go ahead, say something nasty about her. But she was someone you once liked. I was stunned for a few seconds. Like her? Yeah, I did like her back then. Otherwise, why would I have picked only her? But if it's something you can take back that quickly, it probably wasn't a deep emotion. Rachel suddenly squatted down, looking up at me. Mark. Her eyes were filled with an indescribable emotion, like overflowing moonlight. I'm not dirty, she said, her voice usually clear but now sounding hoarse. I haven't been out there. I'm clean. I knew that. I'd seen her medical report. Her casual tone made me feel guilty. It stopped me from speaking too formally. I bent down and gently kissed her beautiful eyes, staying silent. The waves rose and the temperature climbed. In a daze, I felt someone gripping my hand tightly. Her fingers intertwined with mine, making it hard to breathe. Rachel's eyes always seemed to be telling a story. I didn't have time to question it. I was too caught up. I vaguely heard her whisper against my ear. Are you standing up for me? Do you still like her? If you don't, could you give me a little bit of those feelings? But I thought I misheard because she quickly added, none of that matters. I reflexively asked, then what does? She didn't answer. Starlight filled the bed, shattering suddenly. I didn't get an answer, just got lost in the galaxy and moonlight. Carrie ended her contract with Entertainment. Queen Entertainment came to negotiate the termination fee, and I let her go without a fuss. Frank, who's kinda like family, a distant cousin, might be a young and promising guy but loves his job as an agent. He's always stood by me, threw himself into getting Carrie great opportunities. Who knew she'd skip work to date someone else and jump ship to Queen Entertainment? When he got the full story, he was so mad he got up from his sickbed and cursed Carrie out for 3 hours, calling her a backstabbing traitor. By the time I went to check on him, he was no longer looking sick. He seemed just about ready to confront Carrie. Mark, you're letting an idiot like her run off just like that? He was seething. She's leaving a top position here to be exploited at Queen Entertainment. Why hasn't she donated her brain? And Queen Entertainment, doing this shady stuff right in front of us? His voice trailed off when he saw my face, and he leaned closer. Got a plan? I toyed with a snake fruit in my hand. It's better that she left. Otherwise, with her here, some things would be awkward. Like the scandal with Carrie and Tim, it would taint Entertainment's reputation. What's the plan? Let's hear it. I had people check Queen Entertainment's and Carrie's upcoming schedule. Larry's got a big project. He's leading a historical drama adaptation with 5 period dramas, 3 modern pieces, 2 fantasy series, and 1 spy show. Got the release dates for all. Frank's eyes lit up. This is what you call a business battle. No underhanded tricks, no sharp swords. There's no challenge to go up against their stuff. The quality isn't great, all financed by Larry's guys. I said, we'll directly compete with every genre they're releasing. Frank sucked in a breath, then gave me a thumbs up. That's brutal, Mark. Pure genius. As for Carrie, she's not that dumb. Queen Entertainment wants to exploit her, but it won't be that simple. They'll implode sooner or later. I heard you've got a newbie, Rachel, right? His mood lifted, and he grinned as he mentioned Entertainment going head-to-head with Queen Entertainment. Our newbie is challenging Carrie too? I stayed calm, yeah. Looks like Carrie's no match for Rachel. Frank caught on quickly, shaking his head. Climbing up by stepping over Carrie? That would drive her nuts. Rachel was once Carrie's stand-in. I remained composed. It's always wise to be prepared. If Carrie uses that as leverage, I'll show her what a real takedown looks like. But Frank's smile faded. His expression turned curious, and he cleared his throat. You seem more invested than before. Am I? I frowned slightly, pondering for a few seconds. Maybe it's because Rachel is just… What do you mean? I paused, unsure how to articulate it. In this industry, no one's truly clean. But Rachel makes me feel she should be protected more. My phone vibrated. Rachel sent a photo of her thermos, a constant companion of hers. She likes drinking tea, picked up the habit training with a mentor. She changes the type of tea with the seasons. The thermos was worn, with a carefully etched moon design, nearly invisible unless you looked closely. Before cutting, she'd said to me, "This way it won't be noticed." I've been baffled. If you don't want it noticed, why carve it in the first place? She quietly met my eyes, then dropped her gaze. But I do want people to know. Rachel, usually so cheerful, seemed wrapped in melancholy. I didn't understand her winding thoughts, so I could only offer brief comfort. No need to hide it. Nobody's going to say anything. She stayed silent for a long time, until her warm lips brushed my palm. She quietly said, "I'm not worthy enough to be your stain." The electric touch made my fingertips curl. Facing Rachel's bright gaze, I absent-mindedly finished, "She's prettier. Dazzling looks cloud judgment. Must be her beauty, captivating enough to sway the heart." Rachel was speechless for a second, then gave me a knowing look. "All right, Mark." Queen Entertainment and Carrie clashed sooner than I thought. Carrie didn't want to help their newbie and refused to go public with Tim. She's a rising star, doing CP promo is fine, but going official with a lesser-known guy. Career suicide. But Queen Entertainment didn't care. They wanted to leech, force-feeding Tim to the public. Any press, even negative, is attention. In this era of monetizing traffic, sure, Tim's getting slammed by Carrie's fans now. But after a few months of playing victim, he'd solidify his fanbase. Carrie's jump to Queen wasn't celebrated. The fans knew she was being marginalized and was having a rough time there. After all, the resources Carrie got at S Entertainment were genuinely good. But Queen Entertainment was just stingy, reluctant to give her anything she needed. Carrie tried to rally her fans to pressure Queen Entertainment, but they just played dead. I was wondering if their plan was just to keep Carrie as a mascot despite the large sum they paid for her. But soon I found out why Queen Entertainment was doing this. They were angry about Carrie's lack of cooperation, and they believed that even after leaving S Entertainment, I would still back her with resources. In their eyes, Carrie had me under her control. At first, I thought this was ridiculous. Then I recalled how Rachel looked downcast with her eyes lowered, deep in thought. She said she didn't want to be my stain, her eyes dim and pitiful. So not all women were like that. Queen Entertainment was a bunch of the same kind. Frank bore a faint expression of disdain on his plain face. I lowered my head and signed some documents, thinking how foolish they all were. Carrie found me again. According to Frank, she was desperately stalking my schedule, like a creepy superfandom. I knew why she was looking for me. Things weren't going well at Queen Entertainment. Fake relationships need both parties to cooperate. During this time, Carrie's interactions with Tim were expressionless, like she was forced into it. Their fanbase scattered, with some dedicated Carrie fans starting to blame Queen Entertainment. Unable to out-argue Carrie's fans, Queen Entertainment could, however, torment Carrie. They started getting her quick money gigs, including low-end ads and variety shows. Carrie had plans to refine her acting and start in serious drama, but Queen was treating her like a cash cow, signing several poorly made dramas which offered high salaries, and Queen Entertainment took them all. It was their usual style, either break people or make them submit. Carrie was miserable, losing weight in a short time. She had lost the confidence that came from having S Entertainment backing her. She reverted to her first-day disguise, looking at me with pain and regret. "Mark." Her voice softened, sounding pitiful. "Do you still want me?" My eyes moved over her features, noticing she had tried to make herself up, though she didn't look as polished as before. Her neck's skin tone wasn't even. Her makeup couldn't hide the sickly look, and it was layered on too thickly. But I quickly realized it might just be because I've been looking at Rachel for too long. Looking back at Carrie, her face seemed dull. I said nothing, and Carrie stubbornly kept gazing at me, filled with genuine regret, real affection, real fear, and real pain. Yet, she still seemed like a counterfeit. My heart didn't waver. I looked right past her. Rachel strode over, not sparing Carrie a glance. She just smiled at me, her joy genuine. Carrie stumbled, "You're here to pick her up from work?" I ignored her, reaching for Rachel's hand. Behind us, Carrie's voice was full of unwilling urgency, almost a mix of resentment and jealousy. "Mark, she's just my stand-in. How am I not better than her? I don't mind if you keep her. I can be with you both." She was truly desperate. The once prideful woman, now willing to say something like this. I was surprised for a moment and turned my head to find Rachel's expression unchanged. If not for her hand unconsciously tensing in mine, I might have thought she didn't care. I suddenly wanted to tease her, so I pretended to ponder. "What do you think?" Rachel remained silent, eyes down, waiting quietly, unfocused before regaining her senses. "If Mark thinks it's good, then it's good." Liar. Her lying to me was another side of her I discovered, and I was surprised again. I had no interest in engaging with the irrelevant. I simply said, "I think it's not good." Instantly, Rachel's eyes lit up, similar to a pup she once had. She tried to keep her expression neutral, though joy continuously seeped out from her brows. I felt infected by it, reaching to pat her head. As for Carrie, who was being escorted by security, whatever she said after was lost to us. Carrie's feelings remained unknown. But Rachel, once a substitute for Carrie, now faced accusations of using underhanded means to rise, which surfaced all over the web the next day. I figured she'd paid for this out of her own pocket, losing her mind a bit but still knowing to target softer spots, leaving me out of it. While the controversy grew, Rachel and Lillian were sipping tea I brewed. "What a bad move," Rachel said. "Is this what they call women's jealousy?" Lillian was absorbed in the tea. Rachel's taken steady steps. "She's just anxious." "Anxious about what?" Rachel scoffed. "It's not like she can surpass the lead anytime soon." "Couldn't before." Lillian responded leisurely, "But now it can." Frank presented me with a report. Lover Under Moonlight's first-day ratings broke 3. On the screen before me was a youthful warrior in a white robe, elegant and charming. She acted well, worth all those classes I signed her up for, Lillian simply noted. It's true. She looked a bit like Carrie, but had a different style. "Mark, were you watching Lover Under Moonlight just now?" Rachel asked. I replied, "A promise is a promise." I promised Rachel to watch her play, so I watched during a small meeting. Honestly, seeing the start, I knew Rachel had won this. The character was appealing. A disenchanted young warrior, extraordinarily intelligent, skilled, ethically correct, born in the mud but pure as morning sunlight, admired the male lead prince but never revealed her emotions, eventually dying for the male lead and their righteous cause. It's an unbeatable, tragically beautiful persona that tends to attract fans. As for Carrie, that same week, her drama Sweetheart aired, unable to even hit a 1 rating in the first episode. Rachel started the first episode and said, "Did Carrie tweak her looks? This isn't just a little bit ugly." Probably from Queen Entertainment's harsh overwork, her condition was terrible, and no TV filter could mask her stiff expression. The comparison between Lover Under Moonlight and Sweetheart's leading ladies was brutally stark. Numbers showed a landslide victory. The situation has reversed. Lillian laughed lightly. "After tonight, who knows who the stand-in is?" Rachel clapped excitedly. "You guys are so devious. I love it. This is nothing. Our boss has the next step planned." Lillian rested her chin. "Queen Entertainment. Huh? Taking without permission is stealing. A thief shouldn't get away without a broken bone." Frank creased his brow slightly, not approving of Lillian's rough phrasing. I drank my tea, ignoring their exchanged looks. If it's stolen, let it go. Useless thieves. Of course, this isn't true. Before stolen, it's a gem. Taken, it's just a stone. After all, I am a domineering person. That night, the narrative flipped. Rachel and Carrie's performances were light years apart. leading many influencers to joke about who was whose stand-in. Bloggers who love drama made frame-by-frame comparisons of their acting, showing an obvious difference. Even as Queen Entertainment and Carrie's loyal fans fumed with rage, they couldn't change the fact. Rachel became a sensation, and she did it by stepping over Carrie, drawing her fans and rocketing to fame. Taking down Queen Entertainment wasn't as hard as I thought. While Carrie and Rachel's fans clashed, Queen didn't even notice S Entertainment's new release schedule, which clashed tightly with their own. All films and dramas of the same genre released by Queen Entertainment during this period were obliterated by those from S Entertainment. Their ratings so low that even their remnants were unseen, their financial reports humiliated, their stock price plummeting. That battle was a total wipeout. Queen Entertainment didn't stand a chance and lost miserably. Now, all the major video platforms see Queen Entertainment like they're seeing bad luck coming, turning down a lot of follow-up collaborations. Their shows weren't exactly low quality, but comparisons can be brutal. S Entertainment was generous, even releasing their previously planned dramas. It's no surprise they crushed Queen Entertainment. Queen Entertainment couldn't hold up. Or rather, Larry couldn't hold up. Larry sent someone looking all battered to check things out, but Frank politely sent them away. Larry didn't even get to see me. Now the whole industry sees it. Queen Entertainment ticked me off. S Entertainment is ruthless, sparing no expense. They used the most straightforward and brutal methods to turn most of Queen Entertainment's investments into failures. In less than a month, when S Entertainment released a new show trailer right after Queen Entertainment, timing it precisely, Queen Entertainment finally fell apart internally. Other factions came to talk to me. Nobody knows the details, but it seems S Entertainment spent a lot of money, likely buying Queen Entertainment's shares. Larry finally crumbled. He came to me to make peace, apologizing all bent over, kept saying he was clueless, should have kept a better eye on his people. Even said he'd bring Tim to apologize too. I stayed cool and aloof, almost smirking. Larry, in your 40s and still clueless like a youngster? Larry's face went stiff, and he could only grin awkwardly. I took my time, watched him go through his whole act, and then tossed a set of documents on the table. Take a look. Larry was confused at first, but the more he read, the more his hands shook, turning pale, mumbling, and then collapsing to his knees. Nothing big in those documents, just proof of Larry's dirty deals he hadn't cleaned up. Tim provided them. Quite interesting. He didn't seem too interested in Carrie, was forced into things, and even took pictures. After seeing S Entertainment's retaliation, he was scared out of his wits every night, and finally decided to take a gamble. The night Rachel and Carrie's public opinion flipped, he came to me with full sincerity, hoping to switch sides successfully. An easy favor, no reason to say no. Larry, you know exactly what these are worth, and I didn't even bother to help him up. I advised you to retire early, or it'll backfire. An hour later, Larry left S Entertainment looking utterly defeated. Queen Entertainment had changed hands. By the end of June, Lover Under Moonlight was nominated for Best Drama, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay, and Best Writer, among other awards. Larry stepping down didn't cause much of a stir. I didn't have time to clean up the mess either. I took in some promising artists and grabbed some good resources, leaving Linda to sort things out. She's pretty vengeful, completely ignoring Carrie. Soon, Carrie, once my top star, was barely talked about, virtually disappearing. She tried everything to reach me, even registering new numbers to call, but the gap between us is too wide. Plus, with my orders, she never got to see me. Her contract with Queen Entertainment restricted her freedom. Nobody wanted to cross S Entertainment, so no one dared sign her. She was stuck with Queen Entertainment. The entertainment world changes fast. Now, Rachel has taken Carrie's place at the top. Not only that, with just one Lover Under Moonlight, she snagged Best Newcomer and Best Actor at the Golden Screen Awards. She skyrocketed to fame. At the award show, Rachel walked up with a thermos in hand. I want to thank someone, she said. He's my moon and my mentor. The thermos lid shone with a silver glow. I clapped from the audience, feeling a bit emotional. But all I said to her was, don't mention me. I don't need any payback. Because investing in her has already brought nearly 100-fold return. That's the truth. But Rachel smiled at me, not a big smile. Her eyes had some indefinable wetness. I want some trace that I was around you. I've never seen anyone in entertainment like Rachel, who could perform without a trace. Unless she wasn't performing. Rachel kept smiling, gentle, honest, and unassuming, as always. Her eyes were bright, her voice sincere. There are many Rachels in the world, but only one Mark. Admiring the moonbeam has always been my own affair. None of that matters. What matters? She didn't say, only answered in her heart. The moon hangs high, just look up to see it.